Hello and welcome to Fide World Chess Championship match number 7. This is the match between Gukesh and Ding. Gukesh has the white pieces, Ding has the black pieces. The game it starts with a Zucker third opening, but then instead it goes for a King's Indian attack, which is double Fi and Shido. The game continues here very normally. It's not an aggressive push by both of the opponents. Both develop first, they castle, and then they start moving the pawns. Black starts to push with the pawns, and you can see some trades here on the board. Then the game starts to get a bit tricky. And now here we see a rook trade on the board. The game is quite balanced. Here, white did have a slight advantage. He could have taken with the queen, I guess, maybe. The engine suggests taking with the knight. So he could have taken with the knight, but he took with the rook, and that decreases the slight advantage he had. Now here, I don't know why he didn't move it. It's really obvious. You would like your knights to protect each other, so moving the knight would have been a good option to d7, but instead he moves the queen, taking the free pawn, and then we have some repetition of moves of the queen here until Ding goes for a queen trade. Gukesh doesn't take the queen trade. He does a blunder here, and he takes the free knight. The game continues, and then here we see a queen trade, and we enter the end game, which I'll be analyzing just after this game. We see a very tremendous and very outplayed end game by Ding against Gukesh. So the point here is white was winning. Some poor options that white took made white's position miserable. You can see how the engine is suggesting to take the knight, but instead he moves away, and you'll know why the knight should have been off the board once I start the review. The game continues with a lot of tremendous strategies here. You can see a lot of endgame tactics, and Gukesh is not playing really well, but Ding is coming up with moves even though he had time pressure. The game continues, and now we're heading for a draw. You can see the match. It's beautiful how he takes the free pawn, and then the rooks come off the board, and here this is the last brilliant move played by Ding, which is allowing the king to take the knight, and once the knight is off the board, we see a check, and then the game draws. Now let's see what could have been better, so we will go to the review from this move onwards. Now here, what Ding does is offer a queen trade. Now Gukesh, instead of taking the queen, goes to f4. This is a big blunder because then the queen takes the knight, and that is what Ding does. Instead, what he could do was take the queen and have the queens off the board. Now the only threat he thought about was that there is a pawn here and it can move and promote to a queen, but that won't happen because now you can move the knight here. He guards this square here, and even if the rook comes here or anything, it's not a big problem. There is no threat to the knight even, so it's protected. The square is protected by the bishop as well, and then if he were to move, that would be a blunder. After f4, however, he takes the free knight. The game continues. The queens are off the board. The game continues with the great move by Gukesh. Gukesh takes the free pawn. He manages to avoid the rook from getting into a threat. The game continues here, and we see a better position for white. He is winning here. You can see the time as well. Ding is low on time. He has 28 minutes, while Gukesh had 30 minutes. Ding survives this round like crazy. From now on, the moves that Ding does here is absolutely remarkable because the way he moves, look at this. This is a great move because then you take, you lose a pawn. So what Ding is doing here is taking all the pawns he can and make this situation go towards a draw. When I was looking at the match, even I did this move because this allows you to win a free pawn, and that's really good for you. This, however, was an inaccuracy. This wasn't the best move, but then this move is the best move. I'll show you why. Later in the game, when the rooks move away, here now, the rook can't take the knight because the pawn is guarding. So that's the point of the best move, moving the pawn to f5. The game continues here, and now the rook moves to the best square possible. Here he pushes the pawn, trying to threaten the rook. the rook moves away, and now this is the best move because now what you do is you have the king here, and whenever you move the knight, you have the advantage to keep it in a check and take the piece. For example, it could take here. I'll show you if it was to happen. It would happen like this, and now you're in check. You have to move the king, and you lose the rook. And even after you take the knight, the black has a very good position. Instead, what he does is moves the rook, avoiding this type of a fork. And now, here, this great move comes into action because now it's defending the knight. Here, I would suggest something else. He moves the rook here. Instead, what he could have done was maybe give a check. This is a fork. The king has to move. Maybe he won't move here, but... And now, with the knight off the board, white is winning. Even if we're take with this or take with this, the game is still balanced and it continues in the favor of white. And it will also help you in the end game because now you'll see how bad the knight becomes in the end game, and that's the only piece that helps Ding. We see another pawn coming off the board, and now it's a very balanced position. The game continues and the rook moves away, and now there's only last move that he can play, and that is moving the pawn. He pushes the pawn trying to get a chance to attack, but instead the knight is on the board. Now here he threatens the knight, but the knight moves away, and this is why I was saying you need to take the knight whenever you get the chance. Instead, he doesn't take the knight. He goes for the game. The game continues, and we see the rooks coming off, and now this is the last brilliant move played by Ding, where the knight comes off the board and he is in a check, and now the game draws because he has to take the pawn. So that brings us to the end of the analysis. I hope you liked the video. If you liked it, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts below. I'll see you in the next video. Till that, take care. Goodbye.